But I will tell you, my father, I remember he would talk about, what he was going to do in retirement. And I grew up in a father who was a workaholic. He was never there, didn't have much of a relationship with any of his kids, but somehow he had this fantasy that he was going to retire. He was going to live on this lake house. He was finally going to be calm. And all of us were going to bring our grandkids to like visit him. I mean, this was when I say fantasy, it was a fantasy. And he literally died within a few months of retiring. He was a judge. And I think he retired in like February or March and died by June. So when I saw this statistic that ChatGPT said that 43% of people die within 5 years of retiring, I was like, yeah, my dad is one of those. And I've always said, and people get very upset when I see this, in the Bible, nobody retired. It's not biblical. Retirement is not biblical, because the idea is that you retire, that you no longer work. And we are meant to toil the earth. Like, we are meant to create. We are meant to contribute. We are meant to just kind of be here and take up space. Now, do I think that means that you need to stay in the job that you have, working for that paycheck for the rest of your life? No. But when you think of retirement, I don't mean that means just you sit in your house and you fish all day, or you play golf all day, and you no longer contribute, and you no longer do anything that is benefiting the world and yourself and your community, right? Like, that's not biblical. We are meant to have a purpose. And they have found that people without a purpose are depressed. People who don't have a purpose are depressed, right? So I think this is important for us to ask ourselves. So what do we take away with this? Is I think it's important to ask ourselves some questions. This question to ask you is, are you doing something that gives you purpose? Now, if you have a job that you're like, Tara, I have this job because it pays my paychecks and it gives me a comfortable living and it provides me security, but there's really no purpose. Like, I show up, I don't really have a purpose. Okay, well then where could you fulfill that purpose maybe outside of that job? Could you volunteer? Could you get involved in your church? Could you volunteer in the school? Could you help with youth? Like, where could you have purpose that's not necessarily coming from your full-time job, right? Like, where else could that come from? For the, so maybe this is why you have your business. Maybe you get your purpose through your business, or this is why you got into the profession of, direct sales, because this is what, gives you purpose, but because you can help people and stuff. Like, what is your purpose? Where is that coming from? And then what are the things that you're saying, I will do when I retire? I would literally make a list. I would encourage you to make a list of those things. What are those things that you're telling yourself? I'll do this when I retire. And really take a look at that list and say, what am I waiting for? What am I waiting for? I've said this before, and I'm kind of embarrassed to tell you guys, I have a workbook that I made for children with cancer. I really feel like it was a downloaded God thing that I created, and it's been sitting in my shelf now for years. And I always think, if I died tomorrow, what would be one of my regrets? And one of my regrets is that I hadn't published that, because I really feel like it could help children who are going through childhood cancer. But it always gets pushed to the bottom of my list of things that are important to get done. So what is it that you're pushing to the bottom of your list? What could you take off that list and maybe say, this year I'm going to do this. This year I'm going to do this. And if you're a mom, you might be saying, yeah, but you know what? And we've talked about this too. My list isn't important. All of my priorities are my kids. I'm not on that list. And I'm going to remind you of the study that has found that a child's long-term success is directly connected to their mother's, not their father's, their mother's happiness. So if you have these things that you're thinking, we're going to do when we retire, or I'm going to do when I retire, well, statistically, almost half of us aren't going to live 5 years after retirement. What are we waiting for? What are we waiting for? And why are we waiting? What is the excuse that we're telling us? Have you ever heard that saying, an excuse is a lie that you tell yourself that actually nobody else even believes? And we do this all the time. We tell ourselves these excuses. I'm going to do it when I retire because I don't have enough time right now. I don't have enough money right now. I don't have enough resources right now. Well, it's not like we're going to get more energy as we're older, right? Like, that's not going to happen. Our best time is to have the energy now. We're not going to have necessarily more time when we retire. Do you know how many women I work with who are in retirement age who tell me how busy they are? They're taking grandkids. They've got this going on. They've got that going on. They're not necessarily less busy, right? Because busy really isn't about time. Busy is about priorities. And none of us like that. I don't like that either, but that's the truth, right? So what are we pushing off? And so I'm curious, and I would love for you to tell me in the chat, like, what are some of your retirement dreams? And let's see how we could start making those happen now. See how we could start maybe creating some of that now. Maybe not all of it, but maybe some of it. Like, what is possible? What are we saying that we can't have or we can't do, but maybe if we thought outside of the box, we actually could? Like, we actually could. And what would that be like? And what would your life be like? So we're going to go over the next, over the next week, I'm going to share with you all these different things that they said. So the first one was making sure that you're not in a toxic environment. You're not living with people that you don't love. You're not in an environment with people who drain your energy. Like, you're not creating a conflict on a cellular level in your body. And the second one is that you're not waiting until someday to experience this life that you want. Like, that you experience the life that you want now. It's now that you get to do that. And I will